Welcome back to the Explainer. Right now, we're seeing a true David versus Goliath scenario unfolding in the content creation space. And it's honestly fascinating. We're going to explore exactly how small, incredibly nimble three-person content teams are just consistently outperforming massive 50-person production studios. And look, their secret weapon? It's not bigger budgets. It's definitely not famous actors. It is the ability to literally see their audience analytics before those analytics even exist. I mean, instead of blindly guessing which scenes are going to fall flat, these creators are actually simulating audience drop-off before they ever hit the publish button. So today, we're going to look at the tools making this possible, how a tiny team gets studio-level pacing, and how this entire workflow is just actively disrupting the industry. Okay, let's dive right into this. We all know the old reactive workflow, right? The classic publish and pray method. You edit a piece of content, you push a rough cut live, and you just kind of hope for the best. But the 2026 way is radically proactive. Content teams are now simulating exactly where viewers will click away, and then fixing those exact moments while the project is still just a rough cut. It's a total game changer. It completely shifts the game from just finding mistakes to actively preventing them. So here is our roadmap for today. First up, the end of guesswork. Second, creating synthetic heat maps. Third, fixing the dead zones. Fourth, why local AI matters. And finally, we'll cover the honest limits. All right, section 1, the end of guesswork, moving analytics before the publish button. 48. That is the number of hours creators traditionally have to wait for comprehensive data to really roll in after a piece of content goes live. And we really need to establish just how incredibly costly this wait time is. I mean, imagine the pain of that wait. You publish, you wait those agonizing 48 hours, you finally open your analytics, and bam, you find the exact timestamp where a full third of your audience just quietly left. You're learning from a mistake that is already live. It has already cost you the view, and more importantly, you can't go back and fix a piece of content once the algorithm has decided to stop recommending it. That reactive design? Yeah, that's exactly what is dying out. And this brilliantly illustrates the solution. Tools that are purpose-built for this exact problem, like Retention Rabbit and Virality Lab, are completely changing the timeline. You feed them your channel's retention history, and they will flag hook risks, pacing lulls, and likely drop-off points on a rough cut before a single public view even happens. You see, the industry shift we're talking about today isn't about AI just generating a video for you, or some generic AI editing in a vacuum. It's about actively moving that retention audit from after you publish to right before it. Moving on to section 2, creating synthetic heat maps. Let's demystify the mechanics. Let's pull back the curtain on how this actually works under the hood. So a synthetic audience is a well-established technique used in market research. It's used to test messaging at speeds real human focus groups simply cannot match. But here, it's been adapted to test narrative pacing. The model actually learns where your specific viewers get bored. It isn't just relying on some generic global benchmark of what an average viewer likes. No, it is highly tailored to the documented behavior of your exact audience. So how do you actually pull this off? The logic flow is incredibly simple, literally just 3 steps. Step 1, you export your historical retention data. Platforms give you this as a raw CSV file. We're talking literal second-by-second audience percentages for every piece of content you have ever published. Step 2, you feed years of that history right into the predictive model. And step 3, you run a new rough cut through it and it generates a simulated retention curve. Boom! It's a highly actionable forecast and it's built entirely from your own real data. All right, section 3, fixing the dead zones, algorithmic narrative pacing. Now, the crucial point here is that a good model doesn't just tap you on the shoulder and say, retention drops around minute 4. It flags exactly why. It correlates the dip against what is physically happening on the screen. These are your dead zones. Common culprits? Well, they include slow transitions, visuals with way too little movement, or maybe a stretch of narration with no cuts for 20+ seconds. When the AI actually points these out, it empowers your team to jump in and fix specific pacing problems. That is so much more useful than just vaguely guessing, the edit kind of feels boring right here. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of that David versus Goliath reality. On one side, you have a lean, 3-person team catching pacing problems in the time it takes to simply re-render a rough cut. But on the other side, you've got a 50-person studio trying to catch those exact same problems, but they have to do it through multiple rounds of internal screening and scheduling expensive focus groups. AI creates this massive compression of time. It's giving these lean teams big studio iteration speeds without needing the massive big studio budget. You know, budget used to be the main moat, but now, iteration speed is the true bottleneck.
Which brings us to Section 4, Why Local AI Matters. Protecting unreleased content.
I want you to take a second and really truly think about this question. Where is your unreleased script going? When you use web-based predictive tools, you're taking unfinished edits and highly private scripts, and you're uploading them to a third-party server before the content is even public. A leak of an unreleased script, well, actually, it's not just an abstract paranoia. It's a very real, specific risk in today's highly competitive content space.
And that is exactly where local AI comes into play. By 2026, local LLM tooling has genuinely matured enough to make running these analysis models directly on your own hardware completely practical. What does that mean for you? It means zero leak risk for your rough cuts. You are keeping your intellectual property completely in-house. And because it's running locally on your own curated data, it isn't wildly guessing in an average global audience. It is safely and securely simulating your exact, documented audience behavior right behind closed doors.
Finally, Section 5, the honest limits. Let's talk about what AI can't do. Look, we need to build a realistic picture of this technology. It isn't magic. AI is absolutely fantastic at predicting pacing lulls, hook risks, and dead zones. It dramatically reduces your error rate on pacing, for sure, but it absolutely cannot predict the live algorithm distribution. It just can't account for real-time suggested placement or how completely new viewers are going to behave in a wild live browse environment. The distribution system is fundamentally unpredictable, and frankly, no model can guarantee exactly how it will respond once a piece of content finally goes public. I absolutely love this quote from the source material because it just perfectly summarizes the strategic role of predictive AI in modern workflows. Treat the prediction as a strong second opinion on your edit, not a guarantee of the outcome. It's a safety net, guys. It is a highly analytical co-editor sitting next to you, pointing out where you are likely to lose people. But it does not and cannot replace the fundamentally unpredictable magic of what makes something truly take off. So what should you really take away from all this? Well, if you are a small team, you don't even need to go out and buy a dedicated tool right away. Your lowest cost place to start today is literally just exporting your own retention CSVs directly from your analytics dashboard and looking for your personal drop-off patterns by hand. I mean, you might find your biggest pacing dead zones in a single afternoon just by reviewing your own data. And speaking of testing, in our very next explainer, we are actually going to put this to the test. We're testing one of these predictive retention tools live on an unpublished cut, so you definitely want to make sure you catch that. I want to leave you with this one thought to consider as you evaluate your own workflows. Have you ever caught a drop-off point in your own retention graph that completely surprised you? You know, a moment you thought was absolutely brilliant, but the hard data proved your viewers hated it? Take a look at your own analytics today. Find those blind spots and start predicting your pacing. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.